Alright, welcome back to my next TouchDesigner tutorial. And in this one I'm going to show you how to create this tiny landscape here, this low poly landscape, and how to make the water move like this, and how to make these trees appear on the islands. And yeah, they're like, this whole thing isn't perfect. Like, they're moving, but I mean, if you pause this you can get some, I guess, pretty screenshots, or you can leave the trees away if you want to. Like, I think the coolest thing about this is the water. You can also, like, it's using this edge effect, a trick. You can also make it look like this, so that's pretty sweet as well. And depending on both your PC and the frequency used on the polygons, this is either running at 60 FPS or not. So yes, so you can have this run at 60 FPS, but if you make the frequency of the sphere that we're using a bit higher, you can see, at least for my PC, this isn't running at 60 FPS anymore. So yeah. Anyways, so this is gonna be quite a long tutorial. I think there's gonna be quite a few things in there, especially for beginners, that might be quite interesting. And yeah, like, this is gonna take a bit, so bear with me, and I'm just gonna rebuild everything with you together. Alright, so as I said, we're gonna start off with a sphere, like a sphere sop. So I'm using this, and this whole thing is a bit like hacky. You'll see in a second. So one thing I'm gonna do here is turn off the compute normals, change this to polygon, change the frequency to like 7, and change the radius Y to 0. So we have this disk now that looks like this. And I'm gonna connect this to noise. Now on this noise, you're gonna have a lot of room to experiment or like play with this later, as always. And one thing I'm just gonna do is change the thing here to be a bit slower, so like times 0.2. But I'm also gonna change this later. I'm gonna come back to this and not change anything else here. I'm just gonna take a clip and connect that here and change the distance to like minus 0.11. So if I didn't do that, you can see there's always how do you say? Basically, you couldn't see the water that I'm gonna insert. So, whoops. I'm gonna use this clip to, yeah, you'll see why in a second. So I'm gonna use a facet to get the low poly look. Turn on the unique points and compute normals here, and then you have yeah, this low poly landscape going on already. Cool. Now I'm gonna use a transform here, and go to the clip and click on, right click on here, say copy parameter, go on here and say, like on the TY, pass reference. So our little islands are on the Y, like are on 0. It just makes it easier to work with. Alright, I'm gonna add a like connected geometry here, a camera, and lights, or one light. And I'm gonna turn the viewer active on and make this come from up here, the light. And then with Control A, select everything and turn the viewer off, so my PC doesn't have to render all these things again and again. So I'm gonna come back to the camera later, but for now I'm just gonna use I'm just gonna change the Y a bit. And actually no, well, yes, I'm gonna change the Y, but also can take a comp now and use that for the lookup on the cam. Look at, not lookup. Yeah, there we go. All right. So now we can change the Y, and you can see it still looks at the islands. All right, change this to 4 just so we can see better. But as I said, I'm gonna come back to this to make the moving camera. All right, so I'm gonna already render this, and on the render I want this to be high quality. You don't have to do this. And then I'm gonna attach a transform, as always, a level, because we might need that, might want that later, and a null that I'm gonna call BG. All right, on the transform, as always, I'm gonna change the alpha to 1 and the comp over background color on, and then make this like display this so we can see it. Should we change this to 5 again? All right. Now I'm gonna use a material to get the color. So to make this green, I'm gonna use a Phong for that. Turn all the specular off because I don't want this to be shiny. I always like this matte look. And then on the diffuse, I'm gonna take this green color, make it a bit warmer, and then drag it on here, say power material, and then we have green islands. Cool. So the next thing I'm gonna do is use a circle and create the water. So in the circle, I'm gonna change the divisions a bit higher and the orientation to ZX. Yeah, okay, and connect this to a transform and a geo as well. So now you can see it's being rendered. So we have beautiful gray water there. And I'm gonna, with the transform, just make this a tiny bit smaller so it's not going over, like, not over the edges, basically. So it just looks a bit better, I think. All right, so now to the trick of the moving water and waves. I'm gonna use a second camera for this. So I'm gonna drop another camera in here and a second render. And on this render, I'm gonna just use the Geo 1. So just the islands, that's all we want. And change this to like 1024 by 1024. And then on the render, also change this to cam 2. So we get this camera. And the lights, we also want the lights. So actually, it might be better. I just noticed that 2 takes a second light. And on this render, just select light 1. And on this render, just select light 2. Not light 24, light 2. And then just drag this light so it comes from above. Okay. And now I'm gonna here change this to like 2.4, this to 0, so the Z to 0, and rotate this to minus 90. So we're looking from above, and then I'm gonna change the projection to orthographic. Okay, so now we see this stuff from above. That's cool. Now I'm gonna take a level, like attach this to a level and to an edge. So we just want the edges of this. So you can make this strength a bit higher and change the gamma maybe to something higher. Contrast as well. just so you have these outlines of the islands. That's the important part. So I think this should work quite well. I want to make this a bit stronger. Okay. And now I'm going to create a feedback loop using a trick that I used on other tutorials as well. So I'm going to drag all of this over here. And then attach a attach a feedback here. On the com, change this to add. Attach an edge here, like a second edge and a level, and then connect this in here. Drag the comb on here, and now you see this going crazy. And I'm gonna change the level on a level, the opacity to like 0.7, and the edge I'm gonna change this to like 0.2, and the sample step to 1.4. So you can already see these waves being created here. Actually, you might want to have this a bit stronger. So there you go. I'm gonna use a lookup here to change the colors, because we're gonna use this as a as the material for the circle. So I want this to be blue, like water, and I'm gonna use a darker blue for the black part, like the black lookup part. So something like this, and a light blue for the waves. Could also be the other way around. You can just try what feels best for you, as always. And then I'm gonna, like, one thing you need to do is use a flip and just say flip Y. And I'm also gonna attach a level here and a null. And that's kind of it. Now we can, I'm gonna copy paste this. And actually use a new font. Turn the specular down again. Drag this on here. And drag this on here, and there you go. Now we have the waves. You might want to change this, like change this to something brighter, or just to something darker so you can see better. Might make this whole thing a bit brighter, or contrast. Yeah, just see whatever feels good for you. And yeah, so that's one way to go. You can also make this even stronger, too much, something like this. You could also copy paste this, just so I can still have that. And then on this one, change the strength quite higher, this higher as well. And say comp over input. Also turn up the black level. And now you can see you get this cool, trippy, wavy effect. Yeah, and now if you change stuff here on the noise, so like the period, something, you can see it's always reacting instantly to, like the waves are always instantly reacting to the changing landscape. So that's cool. Alright, so this is the basic part. Now I'm gonna recreate the trees for you, for me, I don't know. Cool, so I'm gonna do that using, I'm gonna create the trees first, so I'm gonna use a tube for that, tube saw, and change the radius, like the red one to 0, and the red to 0.3. And connect this to a merge, because I also want I still don't know what it's called, like the thing that like whatever, you'll know what I mean. So just copy paste this and change both of these to like 0.02, and also the height to something a bit smaller. Connect this to transform, and that to the merge, and then scoop this down a bit so we have a beautiful tree there. Lovely. Alright, so I'm gonna attach this to another transform and then to a geo. And now you see this beautiful huge tree standing there in the center. And on the transform here I'm gonna change the Y a bit. So scoop this up a bit so we can see, yeah, something like that. Beautiful. I'm also gonna make this way smaller. Wait, this isn't working very well. Okay. I should have done that first. So okay, so like 0.2 should be fine, and then I just move this up a tiny bit. Yeah, you can still change this later. Alright, so I'm gonna use instancing now to position the trees. Well, it's only one now. I'm gonna do that in a second. So I'm gonna use a select SOP and select the transform up there and drag it in here, and use a second clip on this. I'll show you why in a second, and change this to something like that. We'll see what fits best in a second, and connect this to a transform. This to a SOP2 chop, and then a null. And then I'm going to use this null, turn on instancing, and use this null as the instance reference, and then select the corresponding values here. So tx, ty, tz. And I can see these beautiful trees appearing there. So now with the clip we can determine how far up or down they should be. Like, because if I bypass this, you can see they're sometimes going like they're near the water, like too near the water for my taste. So I want this to be, oops, lower. The hell. I'm a genius. So I'm not actually a genius. Okay, so something like this. And now I'm gonna copy paste this first form and drag it onto here, and change the diffuse color to a darker green. So something like that, even darker. So we have dark green trees, and as you can see, they are moving. which isn't perfect, but it still looks pretty cool, I think. So yeah, something like this should be fine. Alright, so this is the basic setup. It's already quite a lot of operators, but you can I'm gonna show you 3 things now, how you can make this, like, yeah, just 3 things. So the first thing is, as you can see here, we're using appstime.seconds as the reference for changing the tx value of the noise. So if I press pause, you can see this still goes up because it's like based on the absolute time, like the seconds since I've started the program. So obviously, if I pause this, the program still keeps running. So if I press play now again, you can see the landscape completely changed. So this is a very common problem that you have with noise and using appstime. So a YouTube user actually, somebody commented how to be more in control of this, so it's pretty cool. Thank you for that. So you just use a constant. I'm gonna call this time, and in here type the same expression, so appstime.seconds and then times 0.001, so it's gonna be quite the low number. And then I'm gonna connect this to a speed, and not change anything there, and then to null. And then I'm gonna use this as a reference for the time here. So drag that on there, say chop reference, and then like times 0.1 or something times 0.01. So really, yeah, it's really quite fast, but that's fine. So now if I pause this, wait a bit, and play this, it's still the same thing. So this is really useful generally with noise, because sometimes you really want to have the same start and not have it. Yeah, you're just more in control of this. Alright, a second thing, it's a trick I also showed on the audio reactive particles. It's how to move the camera around in a circle. So I use a noise for that, not a noise, an LFO, and change the frequency to like 0.02. I'm gonna call this cam X. I'm gonna explain what's going on in a second. And then connect this to a map this from 0.1, because this is a sine wave, and it's going from 0.1 to 1. 0, 1 to, wait, what? minus 1 to 1. And we're gonna map that to like minus 5 to 5. And then connect that to null. I'm gonna just copy paste the whole thing and call this cam Z, and then change the phase to 0.25. Select both of them and press pulse. So what these values are basically doing is creating a circle, and that's exactly what we want, because we want to move the camera around in a circle. So now I'm gonna make these viewer active and take the cam X channel and drag it onto the TX here, say chop reference, and the same thing with the cam Z. So as you can see now, this is moving in a circle. Perfect. And like you can change the speed if you change the frequency here. Oops, I just changed it on one thing. Could pulse this again. Anyways, you can technically change it there. And yeah, so the last thing I'm going to show you is a trick I also showed several times, but I still think it gives a nice aesthetic to this as well. So I'm going to insert some grain, or like add some grain. So I'm going to change this to add, and then use a noise, and just use this. I'm gonna use the render size, so gonna say copy parameter, and then pass reference in both of these, and on the second one change this. Actually, I don't like that, so I'm gonna say width and height on here, so we have the same resolution if we change that. Alright, now on the noise I'm gonna change this to random, connect a level to this, and then add that in there, and on level change the opacity to something quite low, something like this, so it just looks a bit sweeter. But I'm gonna change this to 4 actually on both of them, so we're a bit closer. And then on this, on a level here, change the general brightness something a bit higher, and maybe on here I can change the frequency to something lower, so it's running at 60 FPS technically. Actually, this is a bit too bright now. That was good before. Alright, so that is it. If you have any questions, as always, you can just ask me in the comments or on Instagram. And thanks a lot for watching. I hope this helped you, or you enjoyed it, or something else that's positive. And I see you on the next tutorial. Thanks a lot.